Okay, we're here with Mom, who is my grandmother, my mother's mother.
Welcome. Yay.
She's here with us.
Thank
First
you.
first guest on the Changhoff podcast.
Yes.
It's great to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
I guess I'm curious to hear, and I'm sure a lot of people will be curious to hear, just what your experience has been like in Tampa throughout your life.
Well, that I'd have to write a book.
Yeah,
Because at my age, I've got a lot of history, a lot of memories, and after football games, everybody came to my house, and we had a big breezeway, and we would play records and dance, and my parents used to make French fries for us and have Cokes, and so my house was a lot of the go-to, because my parents really were kind of leery about letting me go out, because most of my friends lived in Temple Terrace, and it was a little ways from there. So they entertained us a lot, and everybody had a good time. So I did well in school, no problem. So
what was it like? You said you were one of 3 Latin students in your graduating class.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like that was an isolating experience? Did you feel like most people were pretty... did you ever feel like you didn't fit in because of that, or you felt like everybody was pretty accepting?
No, as far as the students went, there was no problem at all. But there was a couple of teachers that were very... they weren't very open to us. They were... You could tell that they treated us different. But not to the point where, it was a problem or anything. I mean, it's not for me. I don't care. I knew who I was, and it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I don't think it bothered any of them, really.
Okay. You mentioned a little bit about your parents, who I know as Wella and Wella, and how they would love to have people over, and they would have food,
yes.
and they would have...
Absolutely.
What was it like living in their house?
It was fine. I mean, everybody got along. My sister and I always got along, no matter what. Mm-hmm. And my mother was very... She was just very caring and wanted to know what's going on and what... she was good. She was a good mother.
How many kids was it? It was just you and your sister?
It was just me and my sister. Yep, that was it. She's 2.5 years younger than I am. Mm. But and it's so funny, we always had the same taste. She would go shopping with her girlfriends, I would go shopping with mine, and when we came back, we would both have the same outfit that we bought. And just recently, she took me to my eye appointment, and so I'm wearing this black dress with a leopard print scarf. Well, she shows up with black pants and a black top and a leopard print shirt. And but we do that all the time. It's like, it's crazy.
You guys are just linked like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know.
It's interesting to hear about your family life and how your house was like the gathering place for people, and that's just where everyone hung out, because I definitely see how that has translated down the generations, because I can say that was pretty much AJ's house for like me and all of our friends.
Right.
That was the hangout spot.
Mama Donna.
Yeah, Mama Donna. We would always
Yep.
go over to the Denhoff, so that's kind of where everyone would be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to see that has kind of passed down.
It really has.
Cool to have a house that can accommodate,
Oh yeah, it's always better that way, We
had to make a fire in the yard and
right.
Play some music with dance.
It's a nice problem to have, having too many friends to worry about accommodating.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? That's a wonderful thing. The more friends you have, the better. I found that in my life. I mean, just my husband would tell me, everybody you meet is a friend. He says, you're the only person I know that exchanges phone numbers with somebody when you're waiting in line in Publix to check out your groceries.
So I know a lot of us hanging out were very musically inclined. That was pretty much what we would go.
Yes.
We would all come together and do jam sessions, listen to music, whatever, especially the high school that we went to, very art-centric. So what type of music did you guys listen to back then? What was your favorite? Who was your favorite?
My Aunt Julie sang. One of my cousins played the guitar. Another one, Ronnie, with his trumpet.
Oh, I didn't know Ronnie played trumpet.
And so they'd get out there and they sounded terrible. But because they didn't practice together or anything like you guys do. But we loved it and we danced and we had a good time. But it was always lively.
Didn't Wella play saxophone at some point?
There's a funny story about the saxophone, which I found this out just like months before he passed away. But he had a saxophone. He used to play it. His brother Manuel, which is older than him, asked him if he wrote him and asked him if he could borrow the saxophone because my father said, "Do not touch it." He was very protective of all his belongings. He took care of everything. So he said yes. So when he got back, the saxophone was nowhere to be found. When they finally found it, it was like, it was no good anymore. So yes, he played in his young days, but, and I think he would have kept on wanting to do it, but it got squashed.
Yeah, because I remember going to high school in an arts program and studying music. That was a question that came up a lot. Those people asking, does anybody in your family play music? And we would kind of reach back, because my dad played drums a little bit, but then past that was what people would tell me is that, your great-grandfather played saxophone a little bit when he was younger. And that was kind of all I could find as far as...
Yeah, it was in his youth, and he never carried it on.
While there might not be a history of people who played instruments in the family, I do feel like there is a history of music lovers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. I love music. Any kind of music. The only one I can't stand is polka.
Can't do polka?
No.
But I know you and Dad definitely went and saw a lot of live music and had records you loved.
Oh, my God. Concerts, yeah. Yeah, we went to a lot of if there was one in town, and back then it wasn't like thousands of dollars for a good ticket. It was just, it was very affordable. And some of them were in St. Pete. I saw Elton John, the young Elton John in St. Petersburg. And then I saw him again when he was older, but it was here. But we've seen Rare Earth, Santana, the Eagles, Rolling Stones many times. The Jackson 5, when it was the Jackson 5, I took my daughter. She was crazy about Michael Jackson, and she was just young, 10 years old. So we went to see that, and then years later to see him when he did his Billie Jean tour, and so we got to see him for that. So some of them we've seen young and old, but yeah.
Do you remember what your first concert was?
I think it was the early days of the Rolling Stones, when people weren't just clamoring to go. Yes, they were extremely popular and all of that, but what I remember about it, it was on New Year's Eve, and it was the first time I had heard Sympathy for the Devil. And, I just wasn't that tuned in, it was later that I got to love them because they were more exposed, and you got to, I've seen them so many times.
Okay, so what was your favorite restaurant in Tampa or in the area, and is it still here? Is it still around?
Yeah, my favorite, and I went there as a child, so I've been going there repeatedly over time. But Columbia Restaurant. That's one of my favorites.
Classic restaurant.
And, my grandfather would take all of us to, very often, the waiters knew him and all that. And then Burns, of course. Burns Steakhouse is my all-time favorite. I've never been disappointed. I've never been disappointed at Columbia. And then locally, of course, La Septima rates at the top.
Yes.
Their devil crabs cannot be challenged. You know what? Carmine's has a good. They have a good devil crab too, but La Septima's is very good. It's real crab meat, lots of it in there. The Cubans are wonderful. And one of my favorites there is the quesadilla.
Yeah, the quesadilla is good. We had, before recording, we had a palomilla steak sandwich. Jacob got to try it.
Yeah, it was my first time trying the palomilla steak sandwich from La Septima. Very
That's
good.
been my favorite ever since I was young.
Yeah, super good.
I remember.
The crab cake was really good. I agree with you. It has a lot of crab in it. It's fresh. I could taste it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
very good, very good.
Yeah, they have good food. They really do.
They just celebrated their anniversary, but I'm not sure how many years it's been.
Yes, I can't remember either. Well, you know what? There is a T-shirt and the T-shirt quilt that is from their 10th anniversary, and it says the date. So we would be able to tell from that.
That would do it. That would help.
Yeah. Well, I should mention it's March 4th. It's my sister's birthday today. So happy birthday,
happy
Dahlia.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, she's we were just together just a couple of days ago. And I always loved being with her. It's like, you know, I don't know, it's so comforting to be with her. Most of my most interesting stories are from my father's side of the family. Very interesting. And you talk about my parents' house being a gathering place. Well, every Sunday, for a while, you know, things fizzle out after a while, but I would say for a good year, everybody would come to my parents' house every Sunday night. And I have a cousin that I'm especially close to because him and his brother is deceased now, but he and his brother and my sister and I were like best friends. Our parents would go places together. We'd spend our vacation. They lived in Miami, so we would go over there for 2 weeks and spend it with them, and then another time they would come and spend it with us. So every time I see him, which is often, we meet up for breakfast, him and his wife Joyce, at Cracker Barrel, you know, once a month or so. And he keeps saying, "Oh, those waffles!" And my mother had a waffle maker, big one. She would make waffles and ice cream. You know, the square of ice. She would cut it in slices and then put it in between.
Wow.
So he says, "We got to do that. And just this morning, his wife texted me and said, "You know, we haven't been together in a while." I said, "Well, look, I found my waffle iron." I said, "And I'm going to do a test run on it, and we're going to get together. We're going to have waffles and ice cream." So that'll make my cousin Manuel happy because he just brings it up all the time. Just loved it.
Well, while we're on stories from your childhood, we've got a few animals that were prominent in your childhood.
You want to hear the whole story?
Yes, I want to know the whole story because
Jacob knows nothing about the monkey.
Yeah, I know nothing about the monkey. He's mentioned the monkey, so I've been waiting for this episode to hear more about the monkey. So yeah, I would like to know the whole story about the monkey.
Okay. Well, my sister-in-law's the only sister-in-law I have. Her husband at the time was in the military, and he was stationed. And I don't know if he won it in a bet or it seems to me like there was a card game involved, but I can't remember the details. I would have to ask her. But he got this monkey, and so they were on their way. They were on leave. Him and his friend that lived across the street from them, but they were on their way home with a monkey in the back seat in this little Volkswagen. So they went through one of these, you know, Mayberry towns, you know, and they got stopped for speeding. So the sheriff says, "This is how much it's going to be." They didn't have any money. They said, "I'm sorry, we don't have any money." He says, "Okay, well, you go to jail." So they put them and the monkey in jail. Yeah, and the next day, the sheriff took him to breakfast and let him go home. I guess he was fed up with the monkey, but anyway, so they made it down here, and my sister-in-law was not happy about it, but she said, "Okay, you know." So she went back. She moved up there, you know, with my brother-in-law, and that didn't last long. She left the monkey in their apartment, and when she came home, she had potatoes out, and there was a bite out of every single potato, and all her curtains were down on the ground. So she says, I'm not living with this monkey. So they packed the monkey up and came back down to her, her homestead where her parents lived. And they said, I've got this monkey, and I'm either going to give it away or it's not coming back with us. Well, my father-in-law thought it was a good idea, and he had, besides himself, there was 5 boys in the family, including himself, and they all knew how to do one thing or the other, handymen. So they laid this cement, it's as big as one of my bedroom, my smaller bedrooms, and the bars, and they did it up like crazy. There was a tree growing in the middle, all kinds of toys in there for him, and he was living the life, So did
he have a name at this point?
Ugly.
Ugly?
My sister-in-law named him Ugly. So then my father-in-law thought he could make friends with Ugly, and he tried. He would go in there periodically, like once a week or something, and just hose off all the cement, so, oops, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
So it'd be clean, and so one time he grabbed the hose out of his hand and hosed my father-in-law down.
Ugly did that?
Yes. And if that wasn't enough, he grabbed my father-in-law's glasses and went up the telephone pole. And so my father-in-law's there, can't see, the monkey's up there, there's no way he can get up there and get it, so they just had to wait until he got hungry or something. I don't know how they got him down. I just know that happened. And another time he got loose, and everybody in that neighborhood, they had the most beautiful flowers, including my in-laws, and everybody tended to their garden. It was like an old-fashioned thing to do, I guess. But he went up and down the street picking all the flowers. We thought, this whole time we thought it was a male. So he got sick eventually, because they had him for, oh my God, I want to say 30 years or something like that.
Wow, really?
Yes.
I didn't even know monkeys could live that long.
Well, maybe it wasn't that long, but it was forever. When I met my husband in 1970, he had already been there a long time, and then he died probably, I don't know, I can't even guess at when it would be, but we had already been married a while. So anyway, he got sick. They didn't know what was wrong with him. And so my mother-in-law called Busch Gardens and asked them what should they do. That if they could operate on him, whatever he needed, they could have him. So they agreed to do that. So they came and got the monkey. Well, the monkey did have cancer. He had a hysterectomy. It was a female monkey the whole time, and everybody thought he was a male. So anyway, so they did surgery on him, but just a couple of months later he passed away. He was already old anyway, and but that's how we found out that he was really a female.
Wow, what a story.
And, and the kids, when they were little, I would tell them, don't get too close. He likes to grab hair. And, of course, Donna with her pigtails or whatever, she, oh, monkey, ha, ha, ha. And then he'd just take that opportunity.
Yeah, my mom mentioned when I was talking to her about what we were going to talk about today, and I said, I want to hear the monkey stories. And my mom said, I got monkey stories.
Oh, she knows. Yeah, she knew Ugly.
So I know there was also chickens. I believe there was a chicken market at some point.
My uncle, who lived across the street from us when we moved to East Tampa, he was a jack of all trades. He really was. He was in construction, at a construction company. He built our house and the one next door, and many others down the street. My whole family lived that whole block. But anyway, and he also had 7-acre orange grove. And then he had the chicken coops where he raised the chickens, and then he would take them to the market in Ybor City, right on 7th Avenue, and sell the chickens. and they were live chickens that that crated all around. A lot of sawdust on the floor because that's how, you kept the floor clean. But you'd go and pick out your chicken, you'd say, I want a 5-pound chicken or what, 2 pound, whatever, and they would pick it out for you, and then you go shopping. And when you came back, the chicken was dressed and ready to be put in the oven. All of those shops and bars that you see up and down Ybor State, there were once stores.
Oh, okay.
Max Argentar, the 2-story building right at the beginning of 7th Avenue when you approach it from, I think it was 22nd Street or 15th, was a 2-story clothing store for women. And we would go very often there to buy our clothes, very nice clothes. And so there was all kinds of shops and restaurants.
Oh, okay. So you would just go and just around the town, and by the time you were done,
well,
you just go pick up your chicken.
Well, another thing is we were taught, from my grandparents on down, to support because they didn't come here and beg for be put on a government assistance or anything like that. They created their own way, and they so everybody supported them because we knew they were struggling to make their business work or whatever it happened to be. So it was just a habit. On Saturdays we'd go and we'd go to the stores, whatever we needed we got there. My grandparents owned a grocery store, so we always shopped there. I used to shop there. At night when the store was closed, I'd go down the stairs and help myself to chocolate chip cookies and honey buns. Those are some of our favorites.
All right. Well, I guess just to close here, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Today we've been talking about different parts of your life,
mm-hmm.
and I guess thinking back on some of these stories from your life and some of your experiences, is there anything that comes to mind as a big lesson you've learned, or a big maybe piece of advice for our generation, or I guess any closing thought or something you want to share, thinking back on your life?
Well, my upbringing was so different than today that I don't even understand your generation. Yeah. I'm learning from them all the time because, I have to ask them, well, what does that mean? Or what do you do about that? Because I don't know. Of course, I'm not current with that. But I like learning new things, so I ask a lot of questions of them. So, but I don't know. As far as I think the biggest thing I've ever had to deal with was my cancer, and I was in the hospital for 4.5 months, recovering, and so I learned patience. I learned that there's such good people in this world. I mean, the nurses, when they would get off of work, they would come and visit me, and then some of them would take their lunch hour. They would bring lunch, and they would just sit with me and we would talk, because my whole family worked. They couldn't be there and babysitting. These kids were in school, and there was, they came as often as they possibly could, but a lot of time was spent. And my husband, oh my God, he never left me. I mean, he was wonderful. He would bring all his work from his office, and he, usually he'd go in his office in the morning and then spend the whole afternoon into the evening with me. But yeah, I learned a lot from that experience. I learned, I realized that I had a relationship with God. I prayed a lot while I was there. I was determined that I was not going to die. I was not going to die from that. And I had a goal. That's another thing. I learned that you need a goal in order to keep going. Mm-hmm. Shay, my granddaughter Shay, his sister, was going to graduate on June 3rd. And my goal was to be at her graduation, and I was. And we all went to Eulalie right after, and we celebrated. I was there. I was in a wheelchair, but hey, I was there. Yeah. And so sometimes I think that if you're going through something bad and and you can see something ahead, you can get through it better because you feel like, okay, if I can get through this, I can achieve that. And that, it's the same with physical therapy. I had to learn how to walk all over again, and it was a struggle, but I kept thinking, no, and the encouragement I got, the girls would say, don't worry about it, it's okay, tomorrow it's going to be better, and I just found that there were so many good people in this world, and the doctors even, just wonderful. Yesterday it's been 8 years. The kind of cancer I had, only statistically at 5 years it would show up somewhere else, and but I'm in year 8, so I thank God every day.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I think thinking back to something you said earlier that Dad mentioned to you, that every person you meet can be a friend. I think that's something sometimes you learn in hard times, where, like, it sounds like in your experience, a lot of the staff at the hospital, those people ended up becoming friends becoming good friends.
Yes.
So you never know what experiences will lead you to that friendship. But
about 3 years later, like the surgery was in 2016. It might have been already 2000. I don't know, but Don was in the hospital, same hospital that I was at, in the cardiac floor, because he was having some artery issues. So I went to the floor where I was, and oh my God, they all came and I said, you remember me? Are you kidding? Of course we remember you. And they hugged me, and they were just so nice. They're really, they were just lovely people. So, I don't have anything to complain about. I don't, I feel like, I really do feel like I'm really blessed. I thank God every day.
I'm glad to hear that. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast and talking to us for a little bit. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It was fun. It was something new for me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I try to give a little bit at the end, so I'll say a little phrase or something so I know if somebody made it to the end.
Dios bendiga.
Dios bendiga. That'll be it. Dios bendiga.
If you made it to the end of the episode,
yep.
Dios bendiga.
So that's how I know. I'll see you in person.
Comment
if you tell me
below.
Dios bendiga, I know you made it.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching the episode. Thank you, Mom, for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
And, see you guys next week.
All right.